Hi everybody, I'm Joyce Anderson Maisonette, and this is my presentation over the circulatory system. I am a student at the College of Healthcare Professionals in the LMRT program. This is for MS120, Mr. Zayas, and this assignment is due on July 20th, 2025. Alrighty, so let's jump straight into it. What is the circulatory system? Also known as the cardiovascular system. It is the system that delivers oxygen and nutrients to cells throughout a system of blood vessels running all throughout the body. There are two pathways of circulation found within the circulatory system. The first one being the pulmonary circulation, or circuit, whichever you want to call it, which delivers deoxygenated blood or oxygen poor blood to lungs to become oxygenated. In the process, carbon dioxide gets released from the body. And there's the systemic circulation, or systemic circuit, which delivers oxygen-rich blood or oxygenated blood to the heart, which then gets delivered to the rest of the tissues and cells in the body. We're going to go more depth into this later on. Alrighty, so in order to understand how the circulatory system works, we need to understand its main components. The main components being the heart, blood vessels. This includes arteries, veins, capillaries, blood. We'll go more into depth about the composition of blood later on, but just for now, know red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma, and platelets, and the lungs. Alrighty, so the heart is the powerhouse of the circulatory system. Without the heart, there simply wouldn't be a circulatory system. So it's important to understand the structure of the heart and how blood flows through the heart in order to understand this system overall. So let's get started. So throughout my presentation, you're going to see things color-coded, but especially the color blue and red are going to stick out. Just remember that blue means vein or blood going towards the heart, and red means artery or blood going away from the heart. Alrighty, so we can start with the chambers. So the heart has 4 chambers: the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the left ventricle. It has 3 veins: the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, and the pulmonary vein. And it also has, 2 arteries. So the aorta and the pulmonary artery. Okay. So let's start with the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. They're veins, and blood is going up towards the heart, and it first goes into the right atrium. Blood then moves through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, then through the pulmonary artery to complete the pulmonary circuit. If you remember from my last slide, pulmonary circulation is whenever deoxygenated blood is delivered to the lungs to become oxygenated. So it's going through the pulmonary artery to complete pulmonary circulation. Once pulmonary circulation is complete, blood is going to come back through the pulmonary vein to start systemic circulation. So it's going to go through the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, through the mitral valve, down into the left ventricle, and up the aorta to go to the rest of tissues and the rest of your body. Alrighty guys, so here I have a color-coded visual just to help you differentiate between the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. Color-coded blue, we have the pulmonary circulation. It's blue just to highlight that it's delivering oxygen-poor blood into the superior vena cava to start pulmonary circulation. And then we have color-coded red on your right, the systemic circulation. This is just highlighting that it's carrying oxygen-rich blood that's going to be delivered to the rest of the cells and tissues in your body. And just to go over again the blood flow through the heart, it first goes in through the superior vena cava and it lands into the right atrium. Is going to pass the tricuspid valves and go into the right ventricle. It is going to go up through the pulmonary artery to go into the lungs to become oxygenated. Then, color-coded in red, blood is going to be delivered via the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary vein, into the left atrium, through the mitral valves, into the left ventricle, and is going to go up through the aorta, and that's what's going to deliver blood to the rest of tissues and cells throughout your body. All right, guys, so here we have another visual. It's just to help you visualize a little bit more what the heart looks like in real life. It is located underneath the sternum and between the lungs. And this is just a really good representation of that. You can see here how we have some veins that are color-coded blue. Remember, because that means it's carry deoxygenated blood, and some arteries color-coded red to help you remember that it's carrying oxygenated blood. I thought I would touch on a little bit about the mechanisms of the heart, more specifically the cardiac conduction system. The cardiac conduction system is very, very complex. There's a lot of systems that come into play with the cardiac conduction system, but I thought I would briefly go over it a little bit. Alrighty, so the cardiac conduction system is a network of muscle cells that send signals to the heart to contract. Alrighty, if we're looking at the visual, we have the SA node. The SA node sends signals to the atria to contract, or systole. So pretty much every single time a chamber contracts, it's moving blood. It's moving blood to another chamber, or it's moving blood up through a vein or artery. So when the SA node sends a signal for the atria to contract, it's moving the blood from the atria into that right ventricle. Next, signal is going to travel through the AV node, the bundle branches, and the Purkinje fibers, and this is going to cause the ventricles to contract. So for example, whenever the blood is in the right ventricle, when it contracts, it's going to go up through the pulmonary valves into the pulmonary artery and is going to start pulmonary circulation. Here I have another visual to help you understand the cardiac conduction system a little bit better. First, I want to take a look at what I've written underneath the visual, diastole, which means relaxation, and that is when the chambers are filling up with blood. So when the heart is relaxing, that's whenever the atria or the ventricle is filling up with blood. And then we have systole is contraction. It is the movement of blood. We're moving blood from one chamber to another, or we're moving blood through an artery or through a vein. But it is the movement of blood. So if we're looking at the first picture is diastole. So the atria is filling up with blood, which begins to flow into the ventricles as soon as their walls relax. And then it goes into atrial systole. Atrial systole is whenever the atria is contracting. So contraction of the atria pumps blood into the ventricles. And then ventricular systole is whenever the contraction of ventricles pumps blood into the aorta or the pulmonary arteries. But yes, to just help you overall just remember this, you just want to remember that diastole means relaxation, and that is whenever the chambers are filling up with blood, and systole is contraction and is the movement of blood. Okay, so what is this fluid that the circulatory system is pushing all throughout our body? Let's dive a little bit more into it. So this is the blood composition, or the composition of blood. So first we have plasma. Plasma is 55% of total blood. So if you've ever been to a plasma clinic or to donate blood, there's usually this clear fluid that they separate from blood, and that's plasma. Plasma is made up of proteins, solutes, and water. It is 92% water. Some of the proteins include albumin, immunoglobulins, clotting factors, and others. Plasma is pretty much what helps clot whenever you have like a cut in your arm or just somewhere that you're bleeding. Plasma helps form a clot, so it pretty much stops bleeding or stops you from hemorrhaging. And then we have other solutes like electrolytes, nutrients, waste, things that a lot of organs and tissues in our body need in order to function. And then we have the buffy coat. So leukocytes, or the buffy coat, sorry, is made up of is less than 1% of the total blood. Of all of our blood, it's less than 1%. It is made up of leukocytes and platelets. Leukocytes are white blood cells, and platelets are fragments of cells. Leukocytes are made up of antibody properties that pretty much help us fight infection. There are a lot of different types of leukocytes that have their own different functions. We're not going to dive too much into that right now, but there are more than one. There's probably 5 or 6 different types of leukocytes found throughout our blood. And then we have erythrocytes. These make up about 45% of the total blood. These are red blood cells. This is why blood looks red. And yeah, that is the blood composition. So plasma, buffy coat, and erythrocytes. Alrighty, so functions of blood. The main function of blood is to transport oxygen and nutrients to different parts of the body. The blood carries so many nutrients, proteins, white blood cells that the rest of our cells and tissues in our body need in order to function. It is vital for them to function. Also, clotting factors to prevent excessive hemorrhaging. It has clotting factors to prevent you from bleeding out. That's what hemorrhage means, to prevent you from bleeding out. Antibody properties to fight infection, white blood cells, and the transport of waste products to liver. The liver filters the blood, and it also regulates body temperature. Blood regulates body temperature through a process called vasorestriction and vasodilation. Vasodilation is whenever blood vessels near your skin dilate to be able to release heat from your body. And then vasodilation is whenever your blood vessels constrict in order to maintain the heat or being able to keep the cold to transport throughout your body. Common circulatory system diseases/disorders. First, we have the coronary artery disease. This includes angina and heart attack. Angina just means chest pain. Congenital heart defects. This includes infants. So does start whenever you're born. You are born with this. This usually involves whenever an infant is born with a hole in their chest of any form, or maybe a hole through the muscle or through a ventricle that is making blood leak through it. Heart valve problems. If we think about a couple slides before and we were looking at the structures of the heart, there are valves in between the chambers of the heart. This keeps blood moving backwards. And then also high blood pressure and cholesterol, irregular heart rhythm, stroke, and heart failure. So I did want to touch on the coronary heart disease, or atherosclerosis, just because it is so important to bring awareness to this. It is the leading cause of death in the U.S. for men and women. Coronary heart disease, or atherosclerosis, is the narrowing of blood vessels, stops or slows down circulation to the heart. This disease is caused by the buildup of plaque. As you can see on the visual on our right, we can see what a healthy artery should look like, or a healthy coronary artery should look like, versus with someone who has atherosclerosis arteries look like. This buildup of plaque is usually caused by unhealthy eating habits, eating greasy and just not well-balanced foods or meals, or eating foods with a high cholesterol content. So some of the symptoms of atherosclerosis include angina, which is chest pain, shortness of breath during exercise, and fatigue. There is a variety of tests for diagnosis, including coronary angiography, which is an X-ray of the heart arteries, and it can be managed with treatment, with a hearty and healthy diet, exercise, and medications. To conclude this presentation, the circulatory system is the most essential body system. It is crucial for sustaining homeostasis in life. Essential nutrients and materials are transported throughout the body to meet body tissues and needs. It assists in the removal of waste products from the blood and from the body. Other body systems rely off the circulatory system. It is also one of the first fully functional body systems in early development, and in which regular heartbeat starts 4 weeks after fertilization. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.